Good morning, everybody. Good morning. And good morning to you too. And welcome to this Morgenbooster Designing Lovable Experiences. We've been looking forward to this, and it's great to see such a nice turnout as we have, despite the cold weather. So we aim to keep this relatively short and sweet so we have time for questions. But then again, we said that before, but let's see if we can make it. Before we get started, just a very, very short intro to us. I am Jonas. I work here at 1508 as brand strategist and transition designer.
And I am Frederick, and I'm one of the two experienced designers in here. The other one is sitting over there on the table. Hi, Cecilia. Yes, okay, I think I will take this. This sentence, I'm pretty sure you've seen this before. Yes? No? If you haven't, raise your hand. I assume that you all know this. And I think this is interesting because this says something about, we have this thing, a watch that can actually measure time that is very precise. But we also have a subjectivity on how long something feels. So there's something interesting in this in terms of humanity and what is measurable and subjectivity and reality and all that. So I think that's super interesting. So this next one is a model. I don't know, probably maybe some of you have seen this before. Can I see how many designers and UXers are in here today? Okay, nice. Maybe some of you, and maybe others as well, know this model already. It's called the peak end rule. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, so people over here will be super tired with me because this is sort of a repetition of something I've said 100 times before. But the thought or idea behind this is that an experience is one of these two lines. It's an experience from A to B. It could be going to the doctor, going to the supermarket, going to, I don't know, on vacation or something. So it doesn't matter how long it is. The point is that when you look back at it afterwards, how you remember things is actually through your emotions. And you remember primarily a peak and an end moment. So that could be going to the doctors and you need to have a vaccine or something. You probably remember the pain. That is then the peak in this instance. It will probably be down here somewhere because it's painful. But I think this is interesting to talk about in terms of the experiences that we create. Because when you go to a website and you look back at that visit, or is it a brand you look at or something, then you probably remember only a few things when you look back at it. So this can actually be used as a way of prioritizing what it is we do, the efforts that we make. And I think this is interesting because sometimes we tend to design things where we want all pages in a visit to have a certain level of quality. But if this is true that we remember the peak and the end more, we should probably maybe focus more time and effort into these moments. Does that resonate? Yes, nice. Okay. So when we design a website or something, oftentimes it is that we need to build the highway. We want people to go from A to B as fast as possible because that's how we assume that it needs to be. It's sort of a measurable thing, so it's nice and it's logical, but maybe there is another way of getting from A to B. Maybe this is more pleasurable. Maybe it gives us a better user experience or better experience overall. So it's just a note, something we can think about.
Great. So besides getting into peak moments today, we also want to address some common design ambitions and also pitfalls. That is how to miss the point when designing experiences. And this is both in terms of client ambitions, but also internal ambitions. If you just click for the next one. We just took this triangle of pitfalls just to highlight some common, as we see it, maybe mistaken focuses when we approach a brand project that we often come upon. It could be something to do with the client just wanting something that informs, something functional, neglecting the whole human angle. this is just a B2B solution where we have to inform about this and that, or it could also be consumer related product, but still where there's this experience that we're sort of designing for machines instead of humans. Another common thing that we hear is that we just want something that works. Maybe we have a design system, maybe we know from our insights that this leads to this, and this is what our customers need and want, and that's why we design for this and nothing more. So in this we see people really neglecting the element of surprise, that we need surprise. We'll get into that sooner. And the last thing is that we just want something cool that could equally as well be internally. It could be a designer ambition. We want to work with this technology. We want to work with this trend. We want this expression, and thereby somehow neglecting what is the overall purpose, what is the substance of this brand. So hopefully in 50 minutes or so, we have at least shed some light on some of these conceptions about how to approach a brand project.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I'm gonna make this extra embarrassing for him. Yeah. Okay, so next up, a little more food for thought. So everyone knows that you need animals in any presentation just for the sake of it. And this actually is relevant. Have you met Ivan, our office dog, or head of good vibes, as he's called? We don't have a monkey in here. But there is this Pavlov's dog. Have you heard about this? Some of you have, I'm pretty sure. It is about this guy who happens to be called Ivan Pavlov, or he was called, he's dead now. He did these experiments on his dogs where he found out that he rang a bell every time he gave them some food. And by the end, he found out that even by ringing the bell, they started salivating before even getting any food served. So this is interesting in terms of behavior. And we all know this as well. I think some of us, at least, when we don't, during the day, we might not feel hungry, but we look at the time, oh, okay, it's 12 o'clock. I actually do feel hungry. So we have these mechanisms, something that sparks a reaction inside of us. And this guy, he took it even further because it was a little later, few years later, so he could actually measure the dopamine levels in monkeys' brains, and he found out the same thing. He had some monkeys perform some tasks, and they would get a reward, and that would be a juice. It came out of a door in a wall. And every time they got this reward, they went to the door and got this juice. And he found out that the dopamine levels of the monkeys, that it spiked already when the door opened. So not when they got the juice. And then two very interesting things here is that when this continued on, he found out that over time, getting this juice wasn't really enough. So that dopamine reaction in the brain, it sort of decreased over time. And then he found out that when he gave them some juice, that was a different juice than they expected, the reaction in the brain was even bigger. So I think that's interesting because we can use this and sort of conclude that we need some sort of reward in what we build when we talk about design. We also need an element of surprise to get an even bigger reaction. So I think this is interesting and important. It just so happens that this guy, he won a brain prize. We did the visual identity for the brain prize. The brain prize is the Lundbeck Foundation, who gives out an award every year, 10 million Danish kroner, and a real gold medallion for someone who does something remarkable within their brain science. So that's interesting as well. So what to think about is, what is your juice in your organizations, in your work? What is it the reward system is? And I also just want to note that when we talk about these things, we know that these things can also be misused. When you develop a game or something, you can sort of get this dopamine addiction in children and all that. We of course don't want that, but it's just important to be aware that this function exists.
Yes. So going from what we want to what we need. In order to answer this question, we ask you to think about this line that we had in the invitation, the pitch to this presentation today, that we want to go from functional experiences to memorable experiences to lovable experiences. And we had to figure out ourselves what does that really mean, because it's not a journey where you leave everything behind, but it's definitely a journey, and most importantly from the second to the third point, that we really want to stress the importance of being aware of them. So it's both a matter of taking the best parts of each the functional design experiences, the memorable design experiences, and the lovable design experiences, and also possibly leaving something behind. So first off, just shortly, in terms of functional experiences, if we would go completely radical on it, it would be purely descriptive, it would be non-evocative, it would be non-speculative experiences where it was just, this is the experience, this is the product, this is the organization, this is the brand, nothing more, nothing less. And that in itself maybe doesn't sound like the worst standard at all. But we also know that it doesn't stand a chance. It doesn't stand a chance with all the input in all the brand experiences, all the experiences, all the information that we're constantly bombarded with. So we can definitely learn something from it, not least the non-speculative part, which definitely hasn't been the standard in branding and advertising forever. But we would not go with the non-evocative, for instance, or purely descriptive. Maybe the more tangible, more interesting difference is between what is memorable and what is lovable, at least as we see it. So memorable experiences has somehow been the gold standard forever in branding. You need to differentiate, you need to stand out, you need to do something that grabs people's attention, that they remember, and possibly doesn't have to really be something completely tied to the core of the product, but you need to stand out because there's so much competition. This is of course not false, this still rings true, but we want to elaborate a bit on it though. You might know these Popsicle Moments. It's referring to a specific site and place, but it's also become somewhat inspiration for how you can design brand experiences. There's this Magic Castle Hotel in Los Angeles, California, where it's pretty standard, average, nice hotel, nothing magical, so to speak, about it. But they have one feature where they have this popsicle hotline, and you can take the phone hook off and call and ask for any kind of popsicle in various flavors. And then it comes for free, served by a butler in a nice uniform and all. And this is obviously creating a delightful, very, very memorable experience. Another maybe somewhat related experience is this from the Lidmar Hotel in Stockholm, where you have this elevator experience where you can choose between different musical styles and thereby have some joyful experience going these couple of floors. I think it's 5 floors here. And they have based this on also some of the goals that they want to have the Lidmar Hotel represent. There's both the engagement of the guests. It's often creative people living at this place, so it's also playing on music choice and engagement and all. It's also enhancing the home away from home experience, where you actually have a choice of what you're listening to and what the environment around you is, and sort of just a memorable experience. But the question here we want to raise, and not necessarily answer in relation to these two examples, is that are Popsicle Moments actually deceitful? what would make them deceitful as opposed to delightful surprises? What is the vicinity to the core product, to the core DNA? Are they deliberately deceitful in terms of covering up some other parts of, for instance, average or below average hotel that is maybe priced a little high because it has this special experience that people are talking about? Or is it something that is a natural part of the brand and part of giving it more life? Obviously, it depends on our perception of it. Goes without saying, we're differently wired psychologically. We have different aesthetic experiences, and we probably experience these two stories that I just told you differently. Probably depends on that, but it definitely depends on the intent of the people who actually created, but also the intent of the designer. This is something that is quite a difference, and at least as we see it, a necessity for making lovable brand experiences. That it actually comes from a core. It comes from something that is doing through the brand, but still is delightful and hopefully surprising. This change from something that you remember to something that is actually lovable is probably something that we can see in the ages that we live in. Maybe it's the environmental crisis, maybe it's the mental crisis, maybe it's growing awareness about our different capacities and how we really live and organize in the world. Maybe it's sort of just the sum of all these polycrises. But we do definitely see both in the world, obviously, but also here at 1508 that we strive for something else, something deeper, something more profound. And this is why we also focus. Maybe you have seen it in your contact with 1508, maybe here at Morgenboosters, but we have a lot of focus on facilitating transitions, on systems design, where we want to go deeper and do something that really creates a meaningful change. But this intent, this strive for something deeper, something bigger, something more real is also really, really prevalent in the way that we design experiences. And maybe if I or some of my colleagues pitched a brand project or other kind of a project for you, maybe you heard us refer to this castle metaphor as we speak about that. In order to create something that is both solid and true, but also surprising and has this element of delight, it's useful for us to think about a castle where we focus on creating something, a foundation of some sort where we can create experiences from. If we started out with one of the castles, it might be cool, it might be captivating, it might be interesting and memorable, but not necessarily tied to the brand DNA as such. So, however we approach a project with this metaphor, we know that it will probably manifest or result in some sort of visual foundation, be it style guides, brand platforms, design systems, something that keeps you on brand, something that aligns your efforts across different touch points, different channels, so on and so forth. And something that that just makes it easier and faster to get out and do something new. But we also know that this is a core and this is not the end. We need to probably go a little bit further than that. It also manifests in some sort of verbal foundation, be it core narratives, tone of voice, different kinds of communication principles. And these can have a stunning effect in terms of both defining who you are for the world, but also internally, so that you have more a focus on who you actually are and what you're put in this world to do a difference, and who you're put in the world to do a difference for. And it can also be something that you just want to shout to the world or weave into this kind of a tapestry. So the point here is that all these elements, these foundational elements, be it verbal or visual, are part of a core that you definitely need, and you cannot really build a strong brand experience without it. But it is within the core, and it's something that you can execute from, but not limit your execution to. And that is why it's essential to create this core, but we also need to focus on what is delightful and surprising. Let's have some examples of what that could be.
Yes. Yes, first up, so what Jonas is actually talking about is everything that is to be expected. We all often talk about consistency, and consistency is sort of a standard thing we want. It's often referred to as the thing that is making your brand or your experience really tied together. But what we need to also focus on is surprise and delight, in addition to the other thing. But we need to know what the core is. It's very important. That is the foundation of the castle. And then the surprise and delight are the towers. And very, very roughly sketched, you can see sort of something that is systemized over here. And the point is, if you keep on having that consistency, at some point, as it says down here, it can become monotone and boring. So if you keep on just doing the same thing, keep on doing the same, you have a template for how you look on SoMe, you have a template for how all pages look. If it's the same constantly, people are going to be tired of it at some point. You will have some sort of repetition blindness at some point. And that is where this comes in, where we can actually build an emotional connection, because the other thing is super important for building trust and recognition. So, and it depends a lot on which type of organization and product and content you have. Super important to know this, and that's what Jonas is talking about, is having a strong core, a strong brand, narrative brand foundation. It is the starting point. And so we will show you some examples, ranging from something that is a little bit more on the safe side, because that is the purpose of the client, to something that is a little bit more wild. So it will be going from, I'm not going to say boring, I'm going to say on the conservative side or something. But it's also important to say that there are examples out there where, when working with surprise and delight, in redesigning a website in this case, you can actually increase performance by quite a lot. So this is not just for the fun of it. It's not just for designers thinking, we need something that we can play around with. This is actually business and something that can move something. I'm saying it very vaguely to sort of include everyone in here. Yes. So as I said, cases, but suited to the context. So we will start in the in this pension fund, PKA. I think this is a really, really good example where we hit the nail on the head in terms of finding something that is trustworthy, because that is the key point to this. I will go back. This is supposed to be a video. I will continue. So here you see there is this hover effect that's a little bit surprising. We have these very prominent hover effects here. We have some custom-made numbers, a counter that is counting, and more prominent hover effects down here. This is for Global Maritime Forum. Yes. You can also see the little wave as a hover in the navigation. And that is sort of on the safe side of things, but very, very nice. Here we have this fund for entrepreneurship, where what is interesting here is that they actually have different target audiences. So they are targeting decision makers, politicians, etc. And that's what they can do with the color palette up here, but the color palette is actually expanded the further down we go and the more they need to target and talk to kids out in schools. So that is, it has sort of some elasticity and some flexibility built in, which is super nice. Maybe I can use this again. Oh, it's a whole show you have going. Yes. So for Kræftens Bekæmpelse, we built this Menopause App. People who've been here before have maybe seen this. This is coming out very soon. Looks a little bit like this. And this ties a lot into the strategy that we have, that we want to do something for some people out in the world. So people with, I'm going to say women with menopause, they have been overlooked for a long time. And we are building this app, and it ties into us wanting to do something good for some people out in the world. And this also has these really, really nice illustrations and some nice interactions. And the illustrations have a little bit of texture, a little bit of, they are a little bit sort of hinting at something. I'm not going to say abstract because they're not. Once you see what it is, it's really clear, but it has a little bit of hinting. It sort of tickles the brain a little bit. And if I refer back to the monkey metaphor from before, it's important to know when to sort of tickle the brain or do something delightful, something surprising. It's really, really important. Had the guy with the juice, had he served them milk instead of juice, it wouldn't have worked because it's too far away from what the core and the expectation is. So we have this is our own tool actually, website, web sustainability index, yes, where you can go and you can type in a URL and you can get a full report on how heavy is it, what is it divided into, the different types of assets, and so you can see where you can improve your site, so you can reduce the impact that your site has on the world and the bandwidth and everything. So next up is Stray, which is a venture fund in New York that work with real sustainable businesses. They invest in those. And we've made this super interesting and appealing with really large hover effects. These a little bit surreal illustrations that has been handmade by Marina, who is maybe here somewhere. And you have this whole storytelling site where you can dive into different areas, and it's a whole immersive experience. So I urge you to go and check it out. It's really nice. We have also recently worked with Gubi, who do furniture. You probably know them. And we have made this really nice site. You're going to see the front page of it. There's a lot of animation, a lot of video going, and we have some hover effects. Again, the surprise and delight. This fits a brand like Gubi quite well to have these things because the target audience they have, they define it as design lovers. And design lovers, they actually expect these things. So that's why it makes sense, and it's very much on brand to have it for something like this. Even a little hover down here with the little fish. It's very nice. Okay, and Drakonheart, this is the last one. And this is also very much in focus for our next Morgenbooster. It is a castle in Jutland that they decorate. I say they, is the client, is part of the Lego family. They have decorated this school to in a very, very adventurous kind of way, almost Harry Potter-like style. And it is trying to make a place for kids who have some sort of difficulty in the conventional school system. here you can see some of the brand assets, the hand-drawn logo, and the typographies and the color palettes and all that. It's super nice, made by Lærke and Daniel, who are probably here somewhere.
But also an example where you can see a very dynamic living design system with executions across custom-made typography and all. But still, we have addressed the need for making something that stands out of even this very open base, this open design system, so that when we're, for instance, making a book or making a flag, because it's a nation and not just a school, we have to readdress everything that we know and create it from the core so that we have something that stands out even in an already very open and living design system. I think maybe there's even a video on this. Maybe there's a video on this.
I just wanted to quickly point your attention to the book that we made for them. You can go check it out after. There's also one over there. There's 3 over here. You can also pass it around, whatever you want. But it's really, really nice.
So, based on these, all these examples and what we want and what we need, we sort of made this list 3 takeaways in terms of the things that we hope that we have addressed and something that you will remember. And hopefully we sort of not necessarily answered, but at least gave perspectives on some of the issues that we raised in the beginning. But first off, build a strong and true foundation, but never settle for core alone. That is, as we addressed in the opening, something that we stumble upon, that you see it as sort of a brand is a finished project once we have the brand foundation or the design system in place. We definitely don't see it like that. We see it as dynamic and also with the need for creating for or designing for surprise and delight. But obviously, I don't know if you have an opinion about some of the cases that we showed, both the ones we made ourselves, but also the highlighted Popsicle Moments, when we're striving too far from the core, when we're disconnecting with the brand and doing something just to convert, and when we're staying within and being true to our brand. And last off is sort of just putting them all together. Design with intent and build lovable experiences. That's it.